You see, I told you, Suns fans, don't get too excited over that 4 point victory against the Chicago Bulls because next night play the Toronto Raptors. That's right, a team that's won 17 games this season, on the precipice of losing their 40th game. But the Suns, once again, lose to another lottery team because, of course, they did. Travel north to the border to play their annual trip against the Toronto Raptors, a team that's struggling at the basement of the Eastern Conference standings. But that doesn't matter when the Suns come to town. Today was yet another brutal chapter in the Suns' train wreck of a season. It was a fresh new way to crush the soul of their fan base. Toronto was one of the last easy matchups left on the schedule, quote unquote easy, and Phoenix still couldn't get it done. And they got outworked in nearly every way, except for shooting. They outshot the Raptors, but the Raptors, who ranked 20th in three-point shooting, suddenly turned in to the 2016 Warriors, going 20 of 35 from beyond the arc. And Matthew, they went 8 of 8 in the fourth quarter. 8 of 8. We get it to within 2 points in this game. The Suns, to their credit, you shouldn't be in that situation where you have to claw back and forth and try to get back into a game. But, they clawed and they got within 2. And then the Raptors literally just went into like easy mode on 2K and just hit everything.
What?
It was like every game, it's just a different way to lose, man.
Yeah, and it keeps getting more exaggerated by the next. I feel like the fact that they hit that many threes in that short of span, where we're only, I think, down by 2. It was down by 2.
Yeah, we were down
10-0
2.
run to get down by 2, and all of a sudden, just like that, it's over.
Yeah.
There's always that feeling I've had all season long where I feel like this team can actually win these games and pull it out. I'm like, they can do it. Even tonight when we got down by 2, I still didn't feel it, and I hate that. But I didn't think it was gonna end like that, where it's just like 3 after 3 after 3, hand in their face, didn't fucking matter. Shooting from the logo, it doesn't matter. It's just like, what just happened, man? We just got smacked in the face, like just like that, and it was instantly just another Suns loss. It sucks, especially on a Sunday back to back, taking up your weekend. You want maybe a 2-game winning streak. That would have been great.
It would have been nice going into the week. It's so deflating. You're down by 2 with 5 minutes left, and you lose by 18.
Yeah.
Like, and K-Ray said the stat on the broadcast that the Toronto Raptors this season were 1 in 27 in games in which the opposing team had a better field goal percentage than they did. And now they're 2 in 27 because this season is unlike anyone I've ever experienced in Suns history. And it's like there's just layers to this shit. There's layers to the torture that it is being a Suns fan. And you want to be positive, and you want to come on here and you want to have good things to say, and you want to try to see things through the lens of optimism. But realism comes and hangs out next to you. And realistically, the worst part about this, as everybody knows, is the future as well. I mean, the Suns mortgaged their future for this version of this team, and it just hasn't worked for so many different reasons, but it just hasn't worked. And I had one of my buddies, one of my site managers from SB Nation, the Toronto Raptors site, was DMing me during the game and was just like, whoa, I did not expect this when we were playing the Suns. Like, I thought we were going to get something different. I'm like, you haven't watched the Suns. And then at the end, they were like, hey, man, you're messing up our draft cap or our lottery pick. I'm like, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And just know that we're going to be a lottery team and we don't have our pick. So
yeah, exactly.
And it's just like, oh, man, it really is rough over there. I go, yeah, because short term, this team isn't it. And long term, I mean, it just it really, really hurts.
Yeah, it is. It's totally brutal. And, this type of game, when you lose like that in that fashion, it's kind of surprising. But from afar, I mean, other fans of other teams might think of like the Suns, like, oh, they might be able to turn it on, towards the end of the season to get into the play-in. Like, that's their plan. But I was like, I don't think any team has that plan anymore, right? Like, I think the last 2 years, teams were kind of like, well, wherever we seed is fine. We just need to get into the playoffs, into the play-in. We'll take care of business from there. But it doesn't seem like that type of year anymore. I don't feel like anybody wants to be in the play-in. I don't think anybody wants to be a 6th seed. Like, everyone's actually kind of trying a little bit harder. I feel like now after the All-Star break, it just seems like things have been turned on. I don't know what Adam Silver did other than force the Luka trade, but everyone just really just getting into this NBA season, and there's a lot of great games out there. It's just
Mhm.
too bad we have to watch the Suns and Raptors. Like I told
Yeah.
my girlfriend's son, like, hey, yeah, you want to watch the Suns game? He's like, who are they playing? I'm like, the Raptors. He's all trash game. I'm like, I know. I'm sorry, dude. I don't know what else to say. I wish it was a better competition.
Well, and you couple that with the majority of the teams around the league, at least the ones who are contenders, got better at the trade deadline, and the Suns just couldn't. Again, they had to pay for previous mistakes and couldn't get better. And they just had to, get Nurkic out the locker room because apparently that wasn't working. And so it's this trouble. And you're right about teams, it appears, not wanting to or want to avoid the play-in because it's so tough to work that hard the entire season. And then if you fall into the 7 to 10 range, you could be out of it completely. You lose a game and it's like, what? And we're done. So the level of competitiveness has risen. And yeah, when opposing teams see Phoenix on the schedule, I mean, when you got Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker coming to town, you know that at any time they can go off. And go off they did tonight. Not the best game by KD, but both Bradley Beal and Devin Booker went over 30 points each, and we still lose. And that's because our defense is so porous, and we don't stop the ball, the point of attack. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about, obviously. Thanks for joining us wherever you happen to be joining us. You're the real MVP if you're joining us, because I think we're all going through it as Suns fans, because we're in the process of accepting what this team is and knowing that the future, even if a playoff spot does somehow miraculously appear due to primarily defensive challenges, this team is not going to come close to the expectations we had relative to the beginning of this season. It's one thing to support and watch a team night after night, and you have a certain expectation going to every season, right? Like Raptors fans, they had a certain expectation for this team. They just want to see growth right now. They want to see growth with Scotty Barnes. They want to see, if Chris Boucher can continue to provide minutes off the bench in the manner that he has. If Grady Dick, who is a lottery pick, can be somebody who starts to consistently contribute. But Suns fans, our expectations were so high, and again, this is just another kick right square in the balls. To see, I mean, like, I can't even fault the Suns on this one. They just went absolutely fucking nuclear. I mean, I can, but crack them if you got them. I don't know.
Crack them. Yeah, definitely. I just want to say, if you don't have balls, you can have mine.
Go
Hey, you're listening to the Suns Jam Session podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.
That's right, Suns fans. A 127-109 loss for the Suns. They gave up 127 to the Raptors, and the Raptors are a team that is just ahead of the Suns in the defensive standings this year. We're 27th overall in defensive rating. They're 26th. They can only muster 109 points against that defense, which brings me my first question.
Matthew, I've got to ask.
Matthew, I got to ask. Do you think that aliens believe in us?
Yeah, they created us. Absolutely, man. They believe in us. I don't think we're really real, but yeah, they absolutely have an opinion about us. What do you think?
So you think this is like a simulation?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to think. Like, if you sit there and like, wait, hold on, what is all this? You're like, we're on Earth, we're humans, but we're
then why am I
what
stuck
are we
in this
doing?
simulation where like the worst possible outcome of this Phoenix Suns team is occurring? Like how?
I don't know.
What did I do wrong?
I'm kind of into the whole manifestation, that kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what? Maybe it's my energy. Maybe I'm just not positive enough this year or last year to where I cared too much about the Suns team. And it's my fault because in my universe, this team's not winning because of my doubt. But I remember as a kid and all the way through my mid-20s, I would cry over losses. Like, I used to be so passionate as a fan, and I would want them to win and pray to God they would win. They still want to win. So I think, I don't know, it's maybe the purgatory we all live in, right? I think that's all it is.
Maybe there's a special place in heaven for Suns fans for going through this for as long as many of us have. Yeah, I kind of was thinking the same thing today. I go, maybe I need to, as I mentioned at the front end of the podcast, maybe I need to focus on positive energy. It's one of the things like Katie said in the Netflix doc that there's so much negative energy out there. And I know that we have here at the Suns Jam Session and at Bright Side of the Sun, we do have a platform to influence ways that people perceive this team, because what I say here and what I write on Brightside is my perception of how I'm absorbing this team. And the Suns Jam Session podcast and brightsideofthesun.com are my outlets to process what I'm going through. And it has been negative this year, but we're 27-30 and we're losing to Toronto. I can't help it. I try to look for the positive, and there were positive things, like seeing Bradley Beal back in the starting lineup for the second consecutive games, go over 25 points, score 30 points in this game, a season high, which is kind of shocking unto itself, that it's only the first time he's broken the 30-point threshold. But you're seeing the things that I talked about that I wanted to see with the re-addition to the starting lineup with Bradley Beal, is to see this team have more of an offensive output and just chemistry, and you're starting to see aspects of that. But the simple fact that the defense is so mundane and can't stop the ball in transition, can't give up fast break points, which in this game, 24 fast break points for the Toronto Raptors to 15 for the Suns. They had 42 points off the bench. We had 18. They had 17 second chance points. We had 2. And then, of course, from beyond the arc, as I mentioned, they went 20 of 35. 20 of 35. That's 57% from beyond the arc. We went 7 for 28, which is 25%. And when those kind of things happen, you're not going to win basketball games. And the Suns just, they barely squeak out a victory in Chicago against a subpar team. And then they lose pretty decisively to a subpar team. And this is the simulation that we live in, and it's hard to stay positive. It's hard as a fan to sit here and just go, you know what I loved about this game? Because you're just so disappointed, because we're not a lottery team. We're not supposed to be a lottery team. We weren't supposed to give a shit about this draft. That's why they traded this draft pick, because they don't give a shit about it. We've got Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. It should be a 30th overall pick anyways, which is what we're going to end up with because we have Cleveland's pick. So it's going to be 28-30. But we shouldn't have cared about this draft. And now the next level of shit that's on top of this shit sandwich that we get to eat night in and night out is the fact that at the end of the season, we get to watch the NBA draft lottery. And then when that ball comes up, it's going to go to Houston, not Phoenix. It's just worst case fucking scenario shit, man.
It is, and I think a lot of us might still be hoping for this season just to see a little bit of positivity. The whole negative energy thing, it is tough because I want these to be victories, and even if they're not against teams where we're like, oh, maybe there's something there, right? There's not really great competition right now with the last 2 games, but a victory with some few things here or there that we can build on would have been nice. It just is hard, and I think the whole thing too, if people read your stuff and people want to listen to the podcast, we have it in the chat all pod long. People don't agree. People will agree. They have their own opinion on this team. They let us hear about it, right? So I think if someone is to watch this and someone is to kind of base their own opinion of the Suns off of us, they can see it from far away. They can see clips on Twitter about how bad this team has been and how things are shaking out in Phoenix, right? So you can just see it that way. Watching it on the pod, it's kind of just an instant reaction. It's kind of just, how we're truly feeling right after the moment. The next day, it is definitely depressing, but then you kind of sit back and you're like, all right, well, maybe going into this game, we'll see a little bit here or there. The defense obviously is going to always be an issue with this team, but maybe there's some positives that we can pick up in the offseason with this team. We're always going to be Suns fans. We're always going to be following this team, right? So there's always going to be moves that will help us maybe kind of regain our strength in this team and just stay positive. It's just how you look at this thing, right? We already knew early in the season that this was not going to be a championship team. We can just see it. Nothing's proven it wrong. So we've been in that mindset. So I think we've been okay. We come on this pod right now, we're really just depressed as hell because of this day, and you have to watch the Suns and just kind of waste your day. But that's just what it is right now. We're okay. As a person, I feel just kind of watching the game and doing the pod, we're not going to be upset the rest of the night. It's not going to ruin our night. We just know who this team is already. I think we have to just move on from it. And the fact that, you're moving into a schedule that's going to be so difficult going down the line, still like, hey, what if they pull off a victory? But who knows? Like, we can maybe do something here. That's what we're going to keep going in night after night, just hoping that something turns around. But I doubt that it will happen this season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we record this right after every game, and it's a saying I've constantly said. In fact, one of my pieces that I wrote for Brightside this past week was referencing this exact quote, where I say emotions make smart people look stupid, and when you act emotionally, you can come off as stupid. And sometimes I feel stupid just watching this team night in, night out, but we go and this is our coping mechanism. This is our therapy session, is getting together, you and me, with the Jamsters, watching along live or listening later, and just kind of processing what we just experienced so we can compartmentalize it, then get the hell on with our days and our lives. And we'll continue to and the other nice thing is there's always another game until there isn't, right? Like you package this one up, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this game. You put it in a package, you put it over on the shelf, and then you carry on and you get ready for the next game, which is against Memphis on Tuesday. And can't wait to see what's going to happen there. But I mean, that's just literally what this podcast and how I at least approach it is like, I just need to kind of put my shit out into the ether, good, bad, or indifferent, and then compartmentalize it and then carry the hell on with my life. But it's tough. It's tough to, and this game was tough because it was just like last game where, what was it, 8-2 right out of the gate, and the Suns were just constantly having to battle uphill. And then you see how easy it is for the opposing team to score, and you just get frustrated because you're like, why is it not that easy for us? That's what I kind of, that's how I process this game. As a team with the talent that we have, why isn't it as easy for us to get buckets as it is for the opposing team? Because Toronto, it felt like at will was scoring at the basket. And and it's like when they scored at the basket or they made a 3-pointer, it felt like they were easy points at the basket or easy 3-pointers. Now, there was a couple snippets of the game where the Suns really did a good job and stepped up their defense and block shots and rim deterrence. KD had 3 block shots in this game. Royce O'Neal, Nick Richards. I mean, during periods of the game really had a good defensive strategy negating Toronto's ability to score at the rim.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it felt like it was just like easy jumpers, wide open 3-pointers. Why is it always so hard for us? And why is it so easy for the opposition? Is that just from a fan's point of view, how we process it? Because it always appears that way.
Well, you can feel it and see it from the start of all these games where there's absolutely like a ton of doubt in these Suns players. When they're down, when it's 8-2 or 8-0, everyone in that arena, this is how I feel. Everyone in that arena, including the opposing teams, they know the Suns makeup. They know that, hey, like, if we get out to a lead, like, this team has a hard time coming back. They've been making pushes the last few games to get back in the games. They won the last game, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like they make these pushes. They get on these 10-0 runs or 12-0 runs. But once they get so close to these teams, it's like they already know that they have this doubt inside of them. And I think the other team can sense it. I'm really big into, obviously, the energy and stuff. Like, everyone knows, someone else walks in the room, you instantly feel the energy. This team, the Suns, when they walk on the court, man, they don't have that fear. And I'll always keep saying this. They just don't have that, where other teams can play their game. They like the Raptors, where their fans want them to lose. They can just play their game. They can be comfortable. And as soon as you become comfortable against a team like the Suns, it's easy to take over. And the Suns have not been a team, obviously, since we've had this big 3 thing, where they've held each other accountable. They haven't really even been that dominant team, a team that other teams do fear. So it's like we always kind of still expect them to be that, and they just never have been. So, you know what I mean? Like, we're saying that the Raptors, we should easily beat them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not, right? We are who our record is, or what our record is, and that's just as simple as it is, I feel like.
I downloaded 2K today, and then I simmed it up to real time, so it's the actual season, and then I played the Raptors. I beat the living shit out of them because, like, on paper, our team is so fucking good, and they're the goddamn Raptors. You know, and I get what you're saying relative to energy, right? And man, that fourth quarter, I mean, the Suns, they put a 9-0 run on them, and then they scored like 4 points. They put another 9-0 run on. They had like a 19-5 run. The Suns did to get it within 2 points. I mean, it was beautiful basketball. They were moving the ball around, and then it was just like, I don't even blame the Suns because they were hitting tough 3-pointers. Emmanuel quickly went on one. Chris Boucher, who hasn't hit a 3-pointer in like 4 games. You know, what did he end at tonight? Like 3 of 4 from beyond the arc or something, and a huge 3. I mean, his was the 3 that started the avalanche that ultimately suffocated the Suns. But yeah, let's see, where's he at? Boucher, 4 of 5 from beyond. This guy was 0 of 9 his last 3 games. Yeah, 23 points. You know, they had a guy. You know, Scotty Barnes scored 20. RJ Barrett scored 23. Emmanuel quickly scored 23. Chris Boucher scored 23. You know, and the Suns, they had Booker and Beal combined for 61. KD had 15, and then it was like 9 by Allen, 4 by Mason Plumlee, Tyus Jones, 3 turnovers in his 15 minutes played. Like what? 5 from Royce O'Neal, 10 from Tricky Dicky Nicky. You know, I mean, it was just like the Suns fought. They put those runs on them. But from an energy standpoint, once that first 3 went through for Toronto, and as you mentioned, the confidence that they continued to build throughout the entire game to get to that point went fucking nuclear. And like, I can't even, like, I don't even know how to process it. It's just like, imagine being a player and you're playing and you're fighting and you're clawing and you're just trying to stay in this game, knowing that from a talent level, you should win this game if you can get it in those clutch moments. And you get it to those clutch moments, and then you just get obliterated because these guys become Steph Curry's, a bunch of Olympic Steph Curry's. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and speaking of like Steph Curry, like those teams like that he leads, obviously we've been there with the Suns where we know when we have a lead, we can, back in the day, 3 or 4 years ago when we had Chris Paul, those teams, like we can put teams away because we knew we were going to win those games. Like we knew going into it we were going to win. These teams, they build confidence. They get to a spot to where they get in a groove. And as a fan of the Suns watching, you know those threes are going to go down just because you can just tell. That's just the way these games. And like you said, it's not the Suns' fault, right? Really, it's not. But it's just the energy that they give off that these other teams know, like, hey, we actually are probably going to win this game. From the tip, that's how I feel. And I know the Suns played their asses off in this game, and they were really trying to get back into things and really trying to prove to us fans, like, we have a chance here to make the playoffs and make some noise maybe. But it's just difficult when the whole league knows exactly who you are right now going into these games. And then as soon as they can kind of get you on your back heel, they just know like, hey, we have a chance to kind of just knock them off. And that's the way it has been for sure.
I mean, when no, you're right though. It's just, you know, like did the Suns lose this game, or did the Raptors win it, do you think?
I think the Raptors won it. They controlled the whole game. You know, the Suns have done this plenty of times where they get back into it and they make runs, but they just can't finish it off or take the lead. Like it's happened plenty of times this year. So the Raptors played well, and that shooting spree they went on to end the game was insane. You don't ever see that shit. But the way that the Suns are built and the way they look on paper, you would think going into it, like there's no way this team has a chance to win, right? But like I said, they do know that they have a chance to win, and all of a sudden, it just all comes together in the end. They knock down those threes, and then the Suns are devastated again in the worst way possible. It's really, I feel completely sorry for them.
Peter Papalardo has an interesting stat. So I'll even, this is such an interesting stat. It's going to get the Ooh Dave Stat Me drop.
Ooh Dave Stat Me.
Suns have given up 119 or more points in 26 out of 57 games this season. That's 46%. Last season, they gave up 119 or more in 20 of 82. That's 24%. Defense is our biggest problem. Vogel wasn't so bad after all. I know people aren't probably going to want to hear this. They're probably over it, but I will kind of continue to provide this analysis. Nurkic wasn't so bad after all, huh? Huh, everybody? One of our biggest challenges this season is rim deterrence and rebounding. rim deterrence, and rebounding. And tonight we gave up 14 offensive rebounds. Tonight we were out rebounded 49-37. And just because Nurkic wasn't super fleet of foot on the offensive end and missed some bunnies, everybody just crucified that guy. Crucified him. And we're a team that lacks defense and rebounding. And we got rid of I won't say he's our best defender. I think Kevin Durant's our best defender. But we definitely gave up our best rebounder. And Nick Richards, I like what I saw from Nick Richards in this game. I really do. He's starting to get a little bit more comfortable. He's starting to understand more of the offense. He's starting to roll a little bit harder. He's not fumbling the ball when we do hit him on pick and rolls. Booker's doing some pretty late passes in his pick and roll action, and Richards is having no issue catching it and getting it up correct in enough time. So, I mean, I like what I see from him in that capacity. But it's the defensive end where, I mean, we just sent Nurk to Charlotte for two guys we have yet to see play. We have yet to see. Nurk could still be on the team, and he'd have the same impact because he was sitting on the bench. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. And it's like, what happens eternally? What happens internally with this team where you go from last year, just getting rid of the coach. By the end of the year, Bradley Beal's slapping his hand away, right? There's just that kind of chemistry going on where we see the players as just depressed on the bench, not sitting next to each other, sitting at the end of the bench. Then you have a coach you just want to get out of there. You don't want him to be on the team next year. That's the way it seemed from far away, right? From the players. Now it's like we have another coach, Coach Bud, and we're playing way worse than last season. So, and you have to get rid of Nurkic because he doesn't want to play. Like, what happens? Is it the coaches doing this? Or when Nurk says, like, the organization, like, I feel like now that he's with the Hornets, he's like, I feel respected in his interview.
He's always going to say that. He's not going to show up and be like, I feel disrespected here too.
I know, but I feel like he was just so excited for that post-game interview to kind of just spill the beans on the Sun
again.
But what is it though? Like where this happens, because Nurkic is not a big piece to where I feel like he's going to help us win these games or make us contenders. But like it gets to a point to where we look at this team in the beginning of the season, think they're a championship contender, and things just flip that quick and it's just over. So like, what is that? I know I've said this plenty of times with the team on paper, you come in, you're a championship contender, but what is doing this? What is turning things around to where us as fans can't stand to watch this team? Last year, I mean, we kind of had a little bit of hope going to the playoffs, but that was cut really short. But what happens? Like, where is this going to be turned around? Like defensively, like how do you make it work defensively?
We don't at this point,
Yeah,
and again, I think there's going to be certain podcasts through the remainder of these last 25 games where we'll do what we did, I think 2 podcasts ago, where we sat here and you and I went back and forth and trying to figure out ways to fix it. And I'm kind of at the point right now where I just like, there is no fixing it. There is no fixing it. I'm not ready to start talking about the offseason and try to how to fix it there. We're in that kind of acceptance mode where you're just like, damn, dude, like we really are living the darkest timeline. Like every possible thing that we didn't want to go wrong has gone wrong. And it's not just one thing here or one thing there. The only thing that hasn't gone wrong, and I'm knocking on wood here, is injuries. We haven't had anything catastrophic, and that's always very derailing to a team and a season when one of your best players has a catastrophic injury, but you can always kind of accept the results of the season because of said injury. This season, it's just like the overall the team overall, and Peter in the chat says, so in the end, is it coaches or the players? Every team is made up of 3 different things. It's coaches, players, and roster construction, right? So, upper management. And in this season, everything just kind of feels like it's gone wrong. The roster, it starts with roster construction, and I will go to the grave, at least, or die on the hill that maybe has a grave on top of it, that this team just hasn't been properly constructed around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Even though on paper at the beginning of the season, it looked like it was. It looked like we had solved a lot of our gaps. But then you have the coaching and the players and the execution and the lack of defensive cohesion, because this is a great offensive team, or has the potential to be a great offensive team, although they only scored 109 points against the Raptors. But this is a team that has great offensive upside, but defensively they've just been unbelievably subpar. So there's every aspect of this team, coaching, players, and roster construction, has not met expectations. And that's why you're sitting here 57 games in and you've only won 27 of them.
Yeah, and a lot of it goes into, beginning of the season, we're looking at these players, including Booker. We kind of just am like, oh, well, this is the way I think. Like, Booker, he has to take the next step to kind of help this team become what we hope they would be, a contender. And we haven't seen this year from him. At times we have, but he's not a guy right now where he's been playing better, I know. But he's never given us that like killer thing. Obviously he's had, but it's also just the comfortability of like, hey, we have Booker on our team. And maybe he can be as good as he was a top 10 player going into 2 seasons ago. Maybe he's as good as like a Jason Tatum, right? Jason Tatum obviously is a better player, but can he be that stature to where he can lead a team that can be dominant, that can be fearful, that team that we always hope that he can lead? And we do that with every player, like even the Kevin Durant's and like Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal's been playing incredible, but then when he does get hurt, obviously. And then when Kevin Durant is incredible every game and never leads to a victory, really, except for early in the season. So we just have high hopes, but it doesn't equal wins.
He can, and I see a lot of the comments in the chat. And again, thanks everyone for hanging out with us. This is
thank you.
It's appreciated. Thanks for supporting the channel. Jack M, like, Book and KD don't take accountability. It trickles down. So I'll say this, and I'll say this very candidly. Kevin Durant takes a lot more accountability than people realize. It's just it might not be your version of accountability. He's not standing in front of a microphone at the end of every game, crying into the microphone, talking about how this team could be better or what he did or how he needs to be a better leader and things of that nature. He's a guy who leads by example in the way that he plays basketball and approaches the game, which is elite. And I'll just tell you from personal experience, and Katie, if you're listening, I got you, man. That guy gives a shit about this team. This guy, he cares about how he's perceived as a teammate. He cares about his team. He cares about the relationships he has with his teammates. It might not be something that he's out there publicly saying to appease a lot of the people, myself included, because it's something that I've brought up on the podcast before. And Katie, you'll call me out on it, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong. The way that he leads might not be what you as a fan want to see on the court, but it's something that he does within the confines of this team and that locker room. And I respect him for that. I do.
Yeah, as I scratch my face nervously. I think that early in the season with Kevin Durant, I've mentioned a few times where I was just kind of like, he's there to ball. He's great, but it doesn't lead to victories. He's not the kind of leader I feel like this team needs because we have a Booker that might need to be pushed. That's the way we view it from the outside, and that's comments that I've made. But I think the fact that, we kind of we're talking about like accountability and all that with Kevin Durant and these players. These are fucking phenomenal players. They're top 20 players, top 10 in some instances. But I think we said this all year. We just have those 3 guys that do the same thing and scoring elite. When you look at it like a team like the Warriors, who got
that's
Jimmy
roster
Butler,
construction, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have like the one guy in Steph Curry that can give you the 30 points, maybe another guy that can give you 20 points, but you also have like the Jimmy Butler that can rebound, that can play defense, that can talk shit on the bench.
Get to the free throw line.
Yeah, get guys motivated on the bench. Like, he's already been doing that. I know, like, it's like, oh, that's cheesy to say, but it's like, that's the stuff I feel like I value as a fan when I'm seeing that stuff. Like that team, the Warriors, obviously having Steph and Draymond, that's a different kind of creature, I feel like, than what we have in Booker and Beal. But also it's like, that's what a Booker and Beal needs. They need that other guy to do other things, like a Kuminga to come in defensively, who's athletic, who can play the power forward in the 3 position. Like, it just would have made sense more with the roster, but it's just, it doesn't take anything away from what Kevin Durant is, Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are. Those guys play their ass off in these games. They have been, but it just doesn't equal to wins because we don't have those other guys kind of building the bridge between those runs and just putting teams away that we need. We just don't have that guy.
Yeah, we don't have great defenders. That's the challenge for the Suns team. because they are and have the capability, as I've said, kind of a few times here, the ability to be an amazing offensive team, but you have to have balance there. And I forget where I heard it's probably Ryan Russillo's podcast recently, where he was talking about how, you take a look at the past X amount of champions, and you have to be a top team, a top defensive team, to be serious about making a title run. And the only exceptions to that are like Jokic and the Nuggets when they went to the finals. And one other team, I think one of the Warriors teams, they weren't a top 10 defensive team, but defense has to be a focus. And you saw like what made the Suns look good tonight was defense. As I mentioned, Kevin Durant, 3 block shots. Off of those block shots led to transition opportunities for the Phoenix Suns. And that is what has been missing this whole season. It's just that continual ability to stay so locked in defensively, knowing that you're so good offensively. And if you can just give maximum effort consistently, which is so much harder to do, it's easier said than done. It isn't a video game. It isn't 2K, right? But if you could be so locked in defensively that it flusters opposing teams, it's going to lead to such easy offense. And you combine that with how great you already are as an offensive team, that's where success would lie. But this team, due to multiple reasons, again, roster construction, as you said, is the primary culprit. Again, I can't emphasize how frustrated I am. That's like with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, that third person. As much as I like Bradley Beal and I appreciate the energy he's bringing right now, and I appreciate how he's handled himself as a true and utmost professional through all of this shit, with him being, should he be traded? Should he not be traded? No one's talked to him. He holds the cards, all that stuff. He's come to work every day and given maximum effort. But he's not a great defender. Like, you need a great wing defender. If you're going to spend $50 million on that third player on this team, it needs to be an elite wing defender, or you break it down into other contracts. But I mean, and that's just one of many aspects that is a challenge with this team. And that's just the 2024-2025 Suns. That's how we will remember this team. When you go back and you look at specific Phoenix Suns teams, every one of them had an identity. The identity in this one is the fact that nothing worked out the way that we thought it would. And this team was pretty horrible consistently on the defensive end, and it allowed teams like the Toronto Raptors to score 127 points and beat us.
Yeah. When Bradley Beal was signed here, Booker and KD, you think they signed off on it? Like they must have thought like, hey, yeah, let's just get us him and we'll figure it out. Or were they skeptical too? Like, they must have thought coming into this, like they were going to be the best team. I know Booker had that soundbite, but I think that was a soundbite of him saying like, we're going to be unguardable. That was when we had DA, right? And KD and Chris Paul, right? That wasn't when we had Beal. I wonder how much like the ownership really kind of goes towards the players with these things. Obviously KD and Booker, I feel like have to be kind of in tune with these things before things happen, but maybe not. The way that Books looked the last few years, just look on his face, he kind of looks like, well, he kind of knew it wasn't going to work out in a way, but is still fighting for it. I don't know. It's just funny how we just trick ourselves to believe like this would work, and then it just doesn't. I don't know. It's super strange, man.
Isn't it interesting how Jerry Colangelo mentioned that Matt Ishbia is going through growing pains
and we
as an owner? Yeah, I mean, that's just
we have
fan
to.
Base.
But did you, when he was doing this, obviously you were kind of skeptical about the whole Beal thing, but
the Beal thing, I didn't.
Well, you were excited though, still, right? About the whole thing. Like 2 seasons ago, you're like, this is going to be the best Sun season, and we're going to be media, all that stuff. Like, it's going to be awesome.
Yes,
like we thought that we did from the beginning. At least I did for sure.
I think the biggest thing that Ishbia has brought to this team is excitement, because he's going to take swings, and unfortunately, when you take big swings, you're not trying to hit doubles, right? And the Suns probably could use a couple seasons where they're out there hitting singles and doubles and getting some guys on base and moving them over. But they went, they got Kevin Durant, that was a home run, and they got Bradley Beal, and they were swinging for a home run, and so far, not due to Beal the player, but due to Beal the contract, that's been a big miss. And I appreciate that we have an owner that's in there trying to take swings, because our previous owner was in the stands, like hitting on on people in the stands and then calling other people in the stands racial slurs. And
Oh,
they're like, shouldn't you be up at bat? And he's like, show me your dick. Like it's a completely different ownership
should be about
style.
that. Yeah.
So I like that he's taking swings, and I like that, again, what we're going through, it's temporary. It's temporary. The season's going to be over soon. We're going to have conversations about how this team can potentially get better, but who knows? And then next season's going to happen. But guess what? Like Bradley Beal's not going to be on the books forever, and there will be hopefully some potential light at the end of this at the end of this tunnel. Yeah. And John Tran says, like, that AI pod said you didn't like that no trade clause. That's right.
Yeah.
I was excited about the fact that the Suns were taking a swing and we're bringing top tier talent here, but I was not a fan of the no trade clause.
Oh,
like that thing I'm like, if this doesn't work out, just saying, if it doesn't work out, this could really hurt us. And like, it hasn't worked out and it's kind of hurting us.
You think too, really quick, before moving on from Beal, the whole trade deadline and him actually just deciding I don't want to go anywhere. I'm on the side of thinking, like, I just think teams didn't want him. I think he was actually willing to work with the Suns and get him moved somewhere, but teams just didn't like him or didn't want him.
Yeah,
did you think that? I don't think he was like, no, I'm not going anywhere, because I feel like he was like okay to go some places.
Obviously, like, I have no idea. I don't know my ass from my elbow when it comes to this stuff. I'm not in there. I'm not having the conversations with Beal and his agent, but the outside perception, I think that if it was the right situation, Beal would have probably said yes. But I also think you have to look at this from the human element, and like, Phoenix is a fucking dope place to live, especially in the wintertime. His family's here. It's during the school year. It's not horrible here. Now, obviously, school starts in August, and it is horrible here. And it's supposed to be like 90 next Wednesday, and it's February, so it is kind of horrible here. But at the end of the day, like, from a family perspective, this is a great place to raise your family. So why would he want to leave here? Why would he want to leave in the middle of the season and uproot his family and have to go through all that when it's completely avoidable? And so I think there's a mixture of both. Like, I don't know if opposing teams wanted him per se. I mean, obviously the Heat didn't, because if they did, the Suns would have probably approached him and said, like, hey man, like, you want to go to South Beach? But at the same time, I think that it's more of an off season. My kids aren't in school right now. It's summer break. Let's have these conversations now. And maybe, that's like my biggest hope this upcoming season. The only there's two things I have that are a shred of hope. And it's one, that the Suns could once again hit in the draft, because we do have a draft pick this year. And maybe the Suns can do something, maybe move up in the draft potentially if they need to, but can hit, because the last two picks, in my opinion, they hit on. Tumani Kamara just went for 20 and 10.
Yeah, he's going to be an all-star probably.
Looking like Scottie Pippen out there.
Yeah, he's incredible right now.
And Dunn's a good, solid foundational piece. I feel like he's a rotation player. He's not going to. I don't think he has the upside of a Scottie Pippen, but I think that he's a rotational piece who's definitely going to help this team from a youth movement standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, and from an energy standpoint. So one shred of hope that I have this upcoming summer is that we get a good draft pick. And the other shred of hope is that the Suns can move Bradley Beal somewhere, and that him and his family can go somewhere and they can be happy, and it can open up the window again and take that lock off the window so this team can properly build around Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. Or I'm Devin Booker, because like, you have Booker, you have Durant, you have a great foundation, but you have to build around that appropriately. You can't in the modern NBA. This isn't 2015 anymore, man. It's 2025 with the second apron and the first apron and the tax restrictions and everything that makes it harder for teams. The Warriors team that KD played on, it can't be successful like it is right now, because that team would have been so taxed and strapped for cash that they wouldn't have been able to make some pickups like Andre Iguodala, who just had his number retired today. So there's a lot of different ways and mechanisms to make a successful team this year, and the Suns unfortunately missed that window. As teams are getting younger and identifying talent and trying to build a core, we literally zagged, and it's just not working out our way.
No, I mean, obviously it's been brutal, but I think the one thing I'm looking forward to this offseason is to see how things are just kind of like through the league, like how we're kind of being perceived still, and how if other players want to play with Booker, because that's our biggest thing. Like, I've talked about trading Booker just because you don't know like how long he's going to want to be here and stuff like that. But I don't even want to get into that. But the fact that like we still have Booker, and I think we're still a destination that other players want to play. I'm just saying, going into this offseason, if they can get off of Bill, and I'm sure Bill's willing to work with them because he doesn't want to frustrate an organization, and it's not working out here. If he wants to win, go somewhere else where it makes more sense. He doesn't want to do this again. Like, why would he want to put up with this? Like, even if he's comfortable with his family, like I feel like him as a person, even a player, is not going to want to deal with this again. Like, there's too much stress. If he's gone and
too much losing.
Yeah, if he's gone, like with the free agents or whoever's going to be available, do the Suns just try to swing again for someone else to try to create another big three? Or are you willing to kind of just wait this thing out and just hope, that they can build the next few seasons, get some draft picks or hit on some draft picks, maybe make a few trades to get some draft picks back, get a little bit younger, stuff like that? Is that what you're looking for? Do you want them to kind of go, all right, let's go for another big swing, but let's make sure this guy makes sense. Like this guy's an elite center or something like that, or a wing player. Or
again, like I'm tired of trying to hit home runs. They need to hit some doubles this offseason. That's my opinion. And like Peter in the chat says, so who do you sign to build around KD and Book? Man, we will have tons of thoughts on that this upcoming offseason. We still have 25 games to go. I haven't done research. I know it's not I know it's not a great.
This is the pod for the next forever.
So. Yeah, but I know it's not a great free agent class.
Yeah.
And I like how Al Doji responded in the chat, because this is kind of the answer in my opinion. There's no specific names to attach to this, but he goes, we just need some toughness and defense around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. That's the only winning formula for our team, and we're not far away. I mean, the fact that we have KD and Book is so valuable, and so many people are in this like blow it up mode. And I understand the frustration that people have, but I'm not there, and I don't know if I'll ever get there. I don't think that getting rid of Durant or Booker is a viable option. I love having those guys on this team, man. That is a great foundation, because when you're in situations where you need a guy to get a bucket, you'll very quickly remember what it's like to have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker on your team. And you're like, oh, man, dude, like if only we had a Kevin Durant type on this team. It's like, yeah, there's only one Kevin Durant type in the entire history of the NBA. You're not just going to randomly have a guy. That's not what lost us the game tonight. It's the fact that the opposing team, as you mentioned earlier, the Raptors went and won this one. It sucks, but they just went and won it. It was just 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. I think I just had that 8 times. That's how many threes they hit in the fourth quarter, and that's how many threes they took. It's just they went fucking nuclear.
Yeah. One thing, though, about the whole Durant Booker thing, obviously I'm not the biggest fan of building around them. I think that if you're looking into like next season with Durant being here, it's obviously something that we want because on paper it's going to look good. How do you think he's moved past this point of like being disrespected and like kind of being brought into trade discussions? Like the way I'm looking at the first part of the season before the All-Star break is like this team kind of figured out they don't have it. They're frustrated with the injuries and all that happened early in the season, and they just couldn't get it together. Maybe they had a little bit of give up. I think they did continue to play basketball, but they didn't have the mindset of like, hey, we are actually a contender. Do you think that after the All-Star break, I sound like Sunsgeek. Do you think, doesn't he do that? Shout out Sunsgeek. Love you so much if you're watching the pod. Well, do you think that like KD is like kind of fed up in a way now to prove himself to our fan base, and Booker, like they're actually trying to win these games and trying to step up? Because I feel like now that they have their starting rotation back in order, maybe things are better, obviously mentally moving past the trade deadline. Like maybe they're actually trying to get to that next step. I think they are.
I feel like they always have been trying.
You think so? I feel like there was kind of a give up a little bit.
No, I don't. I don't at all. I don't. Okay. These guys are too competitive to just mentally give up. I think that, again, poor roster construction is the ultimate culprit for this team. I mean, these guys go out there and they play with give a shit. It's just they can't, as a collective defensive force, they can't stop opposing teams. You couple that with the fact that when Scotty Barnes is out there playing tonight and he's guarding Kevin Durant, you think he's not up for that game? Like, that's the one disadvantage of having a Kevin Durant on your team, is he's so great. He's like the Michael Jordan. There's like him, LeBron, and Steph, right? I mean, that whole Netflix documentary. When players play against those players, you get up for it because you want to make sure that Getty Images gets a great shot of you guarding Kevin Durant, and you're going to have that motherfucker framed and in your office for the rest of your life. So these guys get up to play these guys. So I think that they've been taking shots from teams this entire season, and you couple that with poor roster construction, their inability to stop opposing teams, and that's why they've lost more than they've won. As for like whether or not Kevin Durant and how he feels about, trade talks and the team discussing Golden State. I don't know. And KD, if you're listening, you want to ever come on the Suns Jam Session podcast, please do, man. I'll send you a link. Come on here and tell us how you're feeling, man. Like, it'd be interesting to hear how Durant feels about his time here in Phoenix thus far. Just overall, like, what's your favorite place to eat? What's the best place to go in Scottsdale? Where's the best place to get a steak? Like,
where
like
are the places that we'll never get in?
Yeah, tell me a couple places where I'll never get in, but it'd be an interesting
conversation. Your life
conversation
I'll never be able to live.
to see, because obviously we sit here and we give a perception of a team, right? And we have an understanding of what it looks like from this rung on the ladder. Well, it'd be awesome to have KD on here from his rung on the ladder and tell us his experiences as Suns, as a member of the Phoenix Suns, and how the city is and how he feels the city's treated him. How does that compare to other cities? And does he feel embraced? Does he feel appreciated? Because it's as an athlete, those are things, he's human too, and one thing I will give credit to Kevin Durant is he's not afraid to call people out. Some people find it kind of interesting. They're like, oh, well, Kevin Durant goes on Twitter and like goes back and forth with people. I'm like, I think it's kind of cool, man. Like, that's what Twitter's designed for. Again, it's like in the post-game press conferences where people, like, if you give a standard answer, people are, they're not being real, man. They're just telling us what they want to hear. And then when they give us an answer that's actually like deep, they're like, oh man, he stepped out of line. He shouldn't have done that. It's like, those poor guys, damned if they do, damned if they don't. But then they are on that rung on the ladder where they can go to restaurants that I can never go to. I just
I've never been
a steak, KD.
I've always liked the fact that KD's been on Twitter. I think it gets to a point though where, when we do talk about things about the trade and, Jimmy Butler coming here, that is something I'm all for. That's nothing against Kevin Durant, how great he is. That's just me being a fan of the Suns. I think it's best for the franchise. That's all that is. It's not hate or anything like that. Obviously not. I think it's okay to always go back and forth as long as we are respectful and we're not calling people, like, I feel like I've never called someone a piece of shit. Oh yeah, I have. Never mind.
Yeah,
I do all the time.
Yeah. Jesus, man. All right, I've got one piece of trivia for you. And did you do subreddit tonight?
I did, yeah.
All right, cool. So one piece of trivia.
You know what time it is.
Trivia time.
Trivia time here at Jamsters. I was doing some research today. Devin Booker has recorded 35 or more points against every NBA team except for one. Who is that NBA team?
Memphis Grizzlies.
Incorrect.
Can I get one more guess?
You can get two more guesses because I'm going to repeat it again so I can allow Jamsters an opportunity in the chat who are watching along live to answer this. Devin Booker has recorded 34 or 35 or more points against every NBA team except for one. Who is that team?
So I'm going to say the Nuggets or Raptors.
All right, so you said Memphis, Nuggets, or Raptors. Saul says Lakers. No, man, he cooked them in the fucking the playoffs.
Yeah,
John Tran, the Suns. Duh. Okay, technically the Suns. Okay, technically, yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
The Pistons, Jack M. Nope. Spurs from Saul. Nope. Kings from Mark. Nope. Matthew was right on his third and final guess. The Toronto Raptors, the team we played tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's never scored 35 or more. He scored 31 tonight. I was really hoping he'd go for 35, but there you go. So there's your little bit of trivia. And then Matthew was in Toronto tonight, seeing what the opposing team, their subreddit was saying about this game. This should be interesting.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
I left my disguise in the cab, so sorry.
Oh, man.
When I was dropped off. Yeah.
Was there a tariff on that cab?
I was completely naked. I was like, "Ow!" So when I got out of there, when you get your stuff caught in the door and just they drive away and just gets ripped off.
Yeah, every movie in New York that happens.
Dude. Someone said, my stream is lagging. I can't. I don't know what they're talking about.
Maybe
I love those ones where you're just like, what are you guys
sentence?
talking about? I was trying to read around it. There's nothing else I picked up from it. I don't know.
Well, no, his stream was lagging.
Yeah, I know, but it says I can't. So I can't what?
Watch the game? He should have finished his sentence, that's for sure.
Sentence, yeah. When did Fred VanVleet get traded to the Suns?
Oh, Tyus Jones?
Yeah, his beard's getting big. You think Tyus is a little fat or no? My girlfriend keeps thinking he's fat.
I think he's stocky.
He's not fat. He's stocky. I think it's a beard,
stocky.
though.
Yeah, 100%. He shaves that beard like he'll look like a 12-year-old.
Oh yeah, for sure. And someone else said off of that one, I've gotten confused 3 times, and it's really fucking with me. 3 times, huh?
Dang. Wow.
Dude, Bobo's arms are insanely long. Thank you very much.
This is a fact.
Got good dick today. That dick stuff, dude.
Oh man,
Great
I had
dick.
so my Chelsea Light, who runs the HQ Raptors, that's the SB Nation. She's the one who's like kind of going back and forth with me in the chat. She's just like, what did she say to me today? She's just like, hold on, this is very anticlimactic. She goes, oh, there it went. She goes, I don't know what I was expecting watching the Suns for the first time today, but this wasn't it. LOL. And I said, welcome to my hell. And she's like I thought you were supposed to play defense in basketball. I go, I forget what defense looks like. Just let you know you're watching the most expensive roster in NBA history. And she goes, also know that your team is getting cooked by a guy named Dick. Haha. And my retort was, it's a different Dick every night cooking us. Hope it was worth the payoff, everybody, for me looking that up. You're welcome.
That was good. Thank you so much for interrupting my subreddit. God, you threw everything off, my accent and all that.
Oh, your Canadian accent, don't you know?
Hey,
Bobby?
don't you know?
Hey.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Hold on, this one. Whoa, I just deleted it. Can we just hear some fucking play-by-play, Alvin? I don't know who Alvin is.
I don't know, like Alvin and Theodore?
Yeah, the Chipmunks. Alvin.
Alvin.
Steve, is that you? Are you drunk again? Quick pretending to dap up his non-existent teammates, lol. Has quickly been giving fake high fives. So I guess that's like a thing that he does. I don't know if you noticed that. He was doing like fake daps and high fives.
I didn't.
I didn't either, but they kept talking about it.
It's hard to see through the tears.
Yeah. Let me see. Oh, here's the last one. Oh, it's right in front of me. Where do the Suns even go from here? They traded all their draft capital and are stuck with the Beal contract for a few more years.
Whoa, we should get that person on the pod. They know ball.
Breaking news.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
All right, Suns lose. I'm not doing a jam star. Although if I would, I'd give it to Devin Booker. He plays, or Bradley Beal. They both,
Bradley Beal was killer today. He was so good.
They played their asses off. Up next for the Suns, Memphis Grizzlies on Tuesday. So here's what's interesting about the Suns' upcoming schedule, right? They've got the Grizzlies on Tuesday, and they've got a back-to-back. I believe it's Thursday, Friday against the New Orleans Pelicans. I got to look at something real quick. I better not be covering the game on Friday because I'm going to a Valley Suns game on Friday. I'm going to my first one. So, yes, I'm not. Trevor's got it. So if you look at their remaining schedule, they have, per tankathon, they have, of their 25 games, they have 5 easy opponents. They play the Spurs once more, Toronto once more, the Bulls once more, and then the 2 games against the Pelicans. So after the Pelicans, we're going to have, at that point, I think 20 games left. We're only going to have what are considered 3 easy games left the whole season. We're so fucked.
I'm excited, though. I can't stand these games where we're losing to these type of teams. If we're going to lose, I would rather be a top 8 seed or top 4 seed. That's what I want in the Suns.
Well, that's what I tweeted out today. I go, if you think this is ugly, it's about to get fucking nasty.
It's going to get really nasty.
Because we're playing some really, really good teams. But playing Memphis, what do you think?
Well, I love the Grizzlies team, but that's the thing is Grizzlies haven't played really anybody either. They had the easiest schedule really to start the year. Now they have the second hardest schedule to finish out the year. So they are playing against the Cavs right now. It's 6th? Oh, really?
It goes.
Dunks said it was second, I thought.
Oh, no. Tankathon has Phoenix, Denver, LA, Milwaukee, Sacramento, Memphis.
Oh, my bad.
But it's like Phoenix, our opposing strength of schedule is 56 win percentage, and then Denver, their opposing, their number 2 is like 54.4. So it's like a 2.6 drop off. Anyway, sorry. Memphis.
No, it's fine. I better be right, though, in front of the Jamsters. I think that the Grizzlies are going to be fun to play. It's going to be brutal because they're super big, obviously, defense all the way. I think, I'm going to kind of tag the Grizzlies right now and just kind of be their kind of fan the rest of the year and see how things work out with that team, because I picked them to win the finals and I just want to be right about it. So it's not going to happen, but I'm excited about it.
What's funny is on Tankathon, if you look at easiest opponents and you look at different teams like Denver, the Suns are considered an easy opponent.
Really?
Their logo's all over the place under the easy opponents remaining. That's nice.
Oh, very cool.
That's nice.
So you going to the Valley Suns game?
Yeah, next Friday. I think they're playing Rip City.
Nice.
Me and some coworkers, we've been talking about it all season about going down there and seeing it. So we're gonna go check it out. So Friday, I will miss the second of the back-to-back. I'm covering the game on Thursday. So
okay,
yeah, fun stuff.
Sweet.
Well, Jamsters, we appreciate you hanging out. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review wherever you're watching, consuming this content. Help support the channel. We're here for you. Be here for us. Matthew, tell them what to do.
Come on, family.
Hey, you're listening to the Suns Jam Session podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.